This is my presentation. Maybe I will tell you what it's about later. I won't tell you why I picked this topic, or why it's interesting or useful. Good luck reading the title, and who's Ponkun anyway? Question: who are you, and what do you really want to tell your listeners? First, I'm going to talk about business shoes. It's because shoes are important, but I won't tell you why, and I won't put my keywords on the slide. You won't find any clues in the photo either, suckers. Question: what do your listeners really need to know or think about before you talk about your main ideas? Straight from Wikipedia. This information is not connected to anything else in my presentation. I am going to read out all of this information without practicing. It will be very hard to hear me. I put everything I'm going to say right on the slide, but nobody can read it. The title doesn't tell us what's important either. Question: why do your listeners need to know about shoe categories? What do you want your listeners to remember from this slide? This is where I talk about business shoes. I didn't use the File menu to change the slide language to English, so I didn't check the spelling. Question: do you respect your listeners if you have a lot of errors in important words? Now, here is the information you will definitely need in order to buy shoes. I'm sure you will try hard to read the map, but it's written in Hindi, even though the presentation is in English. Question: how will your listeners feel when you give them information that they can't read and can't understand? If you can't find information in English, how can you make it accessible for English speakers? Please look at the chart. You need to look at it very carefully, but you can't read it because it's also in Hindi. So you will never know why I used this chart. I didn't give a source for the chart, so you can't check my information. The slide title and the chart name don't use any of the keywords in my talk. I'm going to tell you about this chart, but I didn't write my main ideas or conclusion on the slide, so it's hard to know why this chart is here. Question: will your listeners believe your comments if they cannot see the most important parts of your data clearly? What do I want to say about food? Nobody knows. Do I want to talk about school cafeteria, healthy food, unhealthy food, food waste? It's hard to see each photo. It's hard to find the connection between the photo and the main ideas of my presentation. Question: do you want to talk about one thing in this slide, food, or 3 different types of food? This is actually the main idea and purpose of my presentation, so I hid it in the middle of the presentation. I used long sentences instead of keywords, so it's hard to understand what's important. By the way, can you read the title? Can you find the title? I copied and pasted whole sentences from my speaker notes, and I'm going to read the whole sentence in my presentation. But you can't listen to me and read at the same time. Probably you won't listen to me. The English is also written in a Japanese font. That's why there are such big gaps between words and between sentences. It is slow to read. Question: how can you make the most important information in this slide easy to find? You can see that this slide is about interview clothes. But the photo shows something different. Also, The slide doesn't tell us what's important about interview clothes. My purpose is to give you advice, and my conclusion is that you should try to buy clothes that you can use for work after the interview. But I didn't put keywords or phrases like advice or clothes you can wear to work in the slide. So when you hear me, you think those things are not important. There are so many different topics on this page, and each topic is discussed differently. I'm sure you won't read all of the slide, and I'm sure you'll forget most of it. Question: which information should you move to a new slide, and which information should you just delete? Nothing? No conclusion? No sources? No contact information? In a casual presentation, you just need to give your conclusion and say thank you or make some comment to your listeners. If you are making a formal presentation, you also need to give the sources of your information or images. Perhaps you should also include your email or website so that listeners can contact you later. Question: are you making a casual presentation or a formal presentation?